Easier than you thought probably today, in terms of like how.
Yeah, I'm not sure Rory would agree with you. He looks pretty fatigued.
Yeah, it was a really, really tough match, and we knew that we were going to have to play unbelievably well to win, and I think we created a couple of opportunities, and a few things that we planned went our way, and we probably had one of those days where we took quite a few of the wee set plays we wanted to, but it was far from easy. That was a really, really tough test match, and they're a quality side, and probably defensively it was definitely our best display, and I think as players we kind of felt we owed Faz one, because we'd kind of been there in bits and pieces in the game but just hadn't followed through on his plan enough times.
In terms of that effort before half time, they were camped on the Irish line and into 22 for about 15 minutes. It was quite a performance. That must really please you.
Yeah, just I think when you get to those moments it says a lot about a team, and boys just, they stuck to our system, and they just fronted up time and time again against some very big and powerful English carriers, and we repelled them. And then I suppose a bit like last week, you know, we then got the impetus going into half time with that lovely little bit of chip and score from Jacob.
So how do you feel?
I'd say more relief than anything else. It always is in these kind of moments, because you're willing it to happen so much. You're wanting players to go out and I suppose deliver what they're capable of. And I suppose there's a mix of pride as well. I think it was mentioned about the defence. The first 8 minutes after half time, you're up 21-5. You know that you can't let them get a score early in that second half, and I thought the defence there was immense. We really had to fight our way out of the 22. They laid siege to our 22 during that period of time, and there was a heck of a lot of character shown. You know, and I'm also proud of the way some guys got thrown in there and survived. Kieran Marmion, yeah, it's not the first time he's ended up on the wing, but it's not his position of choice. Jordan Lama hadn't trained at 13 for us at all, but we were going to put Joey on at 10, so we knew we couldn't put him at 10 and 13. He's quite talented, but he's not two people. So Jordan had to go to 13. He hadn't trained there at all, and I thought he found his feet incredibly well. Keith Earls might disagree. He might have gone over in the corner, but it's a great learning opportunity for Jordan. And at the same time, you know, had Gary Ringrose really grow in stature and boss that back line with young Joey inside at 10 and outside with Jordan and even Jacob. He's still a kid. I think people, because he's played every game and he's done incredibly well and he's growing and learning, people maybe take for granted that he actually hasn't had that much rugby at this level or even provincial level for that matter.
How long did you have that move for the second try tucked away, or was that particularly good for you?
We played the identical move against England 3 years ago in Dublin, and Robbie Henshaw went through and fell over. He got ankle tapped, and Billy Vinapola managed to drag him down. So they're the only two times we played it. Just the way they come up defensively, we felt it would potentially work again, and where they place their forwards. So, you know, sometimes that works and sometimes it doesn't. You know, sometimes you get double jeopardy. You think they might do this, so we might do that, and then we think, I give up then.
Joe, there were a few injuries. How are the lads doing?
No, they're really good. Yeah, in fact, I think if they'd been a bit more injured, it would have been a little bit safer in the changing room. They're very exuberant right now. I think Pesty and I got out relatively dry, but it's very wet, and some of those guys who came off injured, I don't know whether it was a plan, but they've got the most energy now, and so Johnny Bundy, they were bouncing around. Keith wasn't really bouncing around, but he's not a bounce around guy except on pitch, which he does a good job of.
Rory, how does this compare to 2009?
For me personally, it's obviously a little bit more special. I suppose not only starting every game, but captain the side. It's something that every kid grows up dreaming of playing for Ireland, and then you play for Ireland, and the next thing you want to do is win something in a green jersey. And I think to win something captaining in that special green jersey is something that dreams were made of, and certainly for me it's up there as probably a career, the biggest highlight of my career. So it's and to do it with this bunch of players and management and staff and everyone, it is a really tight knit. I know sort of a lot of people, teams tend to say that after they do well or they win games, but it is a really special bunch, and it's a really tight knit bunch.
But this season seemed to be very almost relentless, whereas 09 was all about hope and a lot of near misses before that. Did you get that sense of a different mood this year?
I think we knew that we had to target the first game, and we had to just go one game at a time after that, and obviously you look at the fine margins, and on 75 minutes we looked dead and buried in Paris, having controlled the game that we should have won, and those are the little moments, and I think it's probably reflective of how much that we know the effort that went in, and how special that kick from Johnny was, that we tried to ensure that magic moments like that don't go without the reward, and the reward was this afternoon with that win.
And Joe, you mentioned the age profile there later on, the three-quarters line, etc. I mean, a sense of 09, that was almost like not an ending, but that was their ultimate achievement. Do you think there's more to come from this squad and team in years to come?
It's incredibly hard to predict. They are growing, they're getting better, they're understanding more, but there's still a long way to go for some of those players. And to be honest, we rely still on the same hub. I thought Conor Murray was immense today. CJ Pete O'Mahony was fantastic, but Dan Levy did a super job as well. You had young James Ryan. He's getting better all the time, and with Hendy back right up there, manhandling people. Tyke Furlong, Tiger's still, he's very young in terms of being a tight head. So for Andrew Porter to come on as a 21-year-old and lock the scrum down, and even do a bit more than that. I thought our scrum really grew into the game. I felt, at 18-28 when they got a scrum penalty, one of their players is driving perpendicular to the touchline, and I think the boys in the scrum were fairly aggrieved there, and I think they got a couple of scrum penalties back as a result. So, it's somewhere where that youthful enthusiasm is being tempered by the experienced guys that certainly have been there before, and I think that blend is working quite well for us at the moment.
Joe, can you talk about Keith Earls, because he's the guy who missed out on a couple of championships. He's one of the older guys as opposed to one of the older guys or younger guys that this championship might. I suppose when the story is told of this championship and the Grand Slam, we'll focus on the younger guys and the impact they make. But with Keith Earls, I mean, it's pretty impressive what he's done from where he was. Yeah,
I spoke to Earlsy briefly. And I said to him, this would be your third if you just glued yourself together a bit earlier. It wasn't for me wanting or lacking the want to pick him. It's just that he had a few mistimed injuries, and that can happen to a player. So, it was fantastic to have him and for him to get his due reward. I think he's been really super for us. And I don't just mean on the pitch. I think that's very visible on the pitch, how sharp he looks, but also off the pitch. I think he really leads by example. He's very, very professional in what he does, prepares himself really well, communicates well with those younger players. So he certainly has been a catalyst for some confidence and improvement in that back three.
Joe, in terms of Johnny Sexton, obviously it seems as though he's not been at full fitness at any point in this tournament, but does that just sort of indicate what he's all about, that he's resolved to just grind through it?
Yeah, he felt really good today going into the game. Obviously, Johnny attracts a fair bit of attention, and he's perfectly happy. Some of the attention he brings on himself, trying to smash people back when he's standing on the try line, making sure that they don't get over it. I think that's how he bloodied his nose in the first place, and then he was fine. He was totally coherent, but he was starting to fatigue for sure, just because of the workload. His confrontational tackle ability, commitment, insanity. He's such a fantastic contributor to the group, and his intellect is. I think he runs such a sharp game, and his kick was pinpoint at the very edge of Rob's reach in the first half. He's just such a good decision maker.
Rory, for Jacob's try there just before half time, like, it would have been easy to kick that ball out, but you guys kept playing and got rewarded for it. Who would have made that call there just before half time?
Look, it's our mentality to go and attack, and we want the ball, we want to keep the ball, and we don't just want to get it off. We feel that we're fit, we train to play in those moments, and look, those are the little moments that I think if we had lost momentum, we'd have definitely got the ball out and went right. But when you have momentum and at that time of the game, and sometimes either side of half time teams can switch off a little bit and you can't capitalise. So look, for us it's all about how we feel in the game, and while you're going forward, while you have momentum, we knew we had to attack England with and without the ball today, because if you sit back and expect them to hand you something, it just ain't going to happen. And that was, I suppose, following through with our mentality and what we committed to all week.
Rory, how do you assess the future of this Irish team, Rory?
Look, I think it really depends. We're really happy with today. This was we wanted to do a Grand Slam and to do that, and I think we look beyond that at a later date, but it all depends on how we kick on. I think when you look at especially the younger players, the way they've come in and not just fitted in, but they just want to keep getting better, and as long as they keep that mentality, and the guys that are slightly older, if they keep that want to keep going forward, that's all you can ask. And we'll effectively not know until our next go in a green jersey, but knowing the personalities that are in that changing room, this is what we wanted, but we'll always want more because we're competitive and maybe a little bit greedy.
Joe, England asked for the dead ball line to be moved backwards a little bit, which helped with Stockdale's try before the break. Were you guys aware of the change in pitch dimensions, and did you play to that at all?
No, it was more that the ball bounced off Jacob. He was kind of half caught at the time, and that was fortuitous, and I think I said all week we will be absolutely committed. We'll have a plan, but we'll need a bit of luck. And even I mentioned Sir Alex Ferguson. I remember him speaking at Harvard and talking about how you need to get this and this in order, and then you need a bit of luck. And in really big games, when you know you're up against a team who are at least as good as you are, those moments, they make a difference. So I think Jacob finished it superbly. It was fantastic. The timing of the pass from Conor Murray really created the initial opportunity, and it was a fantastic finish from Jacob.
Joe,
last couple.
Joe, how much would you like to see your Grand Slam winning captain stay on and possibly skip around and through to the next World Cup?
Well, look, he's getting faster and faster on that Zimmer frame. I think I think that that's something that that could come to fruition, hopefully sooner rather than later. But it's like everything, Rory, it's hard to get him to make a decision. So we'll see how we go with that.
Rory, the comments by Eddie Jones in the week created a big part of the narrative around the match. Were they mentioned at all in passing? You guys a little bit of.
No, look, I think it is something that was said yesterday. It doesn't really matter. What matters to us is the rugby, and if we take our eye off the ball and get focused on sideshows and other bits and pieces, that's when you lose a bit of a moment. And we talked about that little moment that Jacob won to score, the one that CJ scored off Bundy's move. They're the little things that if you're worried about things outside of your control, they're not really relevant. Plus, as well, I think you gotta take in a bit of context. We've all been in those sort of rooms as a player, maybe doing a Q&A, and you're trying to say something that you think that the room will find funny, thinking that it's a private function. So we treated it like that and didn't focus on it.
Okay, what makes you finish up after this of this group? What makes you most proud of them?
I think it's probably their resilience. I felt that we were really struggling in France in that last 8 minutes when Thierry Thomas scored in the 72nd minute. that's tough. When you've controlled the game, you missed a kick to go 15-6 up to kind of make the game safe, and then suddenly you're 13-12 down. To show the steel that they did and show the commitment and just plain ordinary rugby ability to keep the ball, to connect up, to win ball in the air, and then the exceptional talent that Johnny has of putting the ball between the uprights, finished it off. And it was even, as frustrating as it was when Wales got back to being very close to us after we had a 14-point lead. Again, it never really felt like we would give that up. And for Jacob to race away and score at the end, Jacob was totally in control of that edge defence and did a super job. And today, I think that 8 minutes after half time sums up this team. Yes, they can put together some really good moments and score tries. And again, I think, we probably totaled more than we've ever scored in a Six Nations. And I think Jacob is right up there with the number of tries that he scored. So, I think they delivered on that side, but that pure resilience, that ability to get back up and in the defensive line and keep them off our try line in that 8 minutes after half time was exceptional.
Okay, thanks guys.